In this module, we're going to compare the verbs of pedir and preguntar. Let's have a look at these two example sentences. We have, I'll ask for the check, meaning that you're getting ready to leave, say, in a restaurant. And I'll ask when the bus leaves. You see, in English, we're using the verb ask in both cases. But in Spanish, you couldn't do that. One of these sentences, it would be correct to use pedir, and in the other sentence, it would be correct to use preguntar. So essentially, we have two verbs in Spanish for to ask. I'd like you to pay close attention to this slide now. We have with the verb pedir this explanation of to request something, whereas with preguntar, we're asking more in a literal sense for information. So this is the key difference between the two. With pedir, we're requesting something, and with preguntar, we're asking for more information. So if we have a look at our two example sentences again, I'll ask for the check. This is a request. Okay, so you are requesting that the waiter brings you the check so you can pay and leave the restaurant. Whereas this one, you're asking for a piece of information. When does the bus leave? When does it arrive? And this is the key distinction to understand between the two. Let's run through some more examples now. The thing to bear in mind as we go through this is that pedir is requesting and preguntar is about asking for information. Let's have a look at this first one. We have the policeman asked to see my driver's license. Now here the policeman is not asking for information, right? He's making a request to see your driver's license. So the correct one to use here for asked would be pedir because it's a request. Now let's contrast that with this one. The policeman asked if I had a driver's license. Now this is asking for information. So he's asking me now to tell him whether or not I have a driver's license. This is now asking for information. Hopefully you can see the difference there between a request and asking for more information. It'll become clearer as we go through more examples. Let's look at this one. I asked my teacher for more time to finish my project. Now, am I asking here for information or am I making a request? So for me, this is clearly a request. I'm requesting more time in order to finish my project, like an extension to the deadline. So I'm making a request for that. Again, let's contrast it now with this one. I asked my teacher how much time I had left to finish my project. You see here now, I'm not requesting anything. I'm asking for more information. I'm asking, how long to go before I get this deadline. So again, here we have clearly pedir because I'm requesting something. And here we have preguntar because I'm asking for some kind of information. But as you can see, the reason why it's tricky for us in English initially is because we're using asked and asked, the same verb in English. As we know now, you cannot do that in Spanish. You must make a distinction between a request and asking for more information. Now, sometimes you have to be very careful in your considerations. For example, look at this. We asked if we could pay it off in installments. So do you think it's pedir or is it preguntar? So this one is going to be preguntar. Now the reason it's a bit delicate is because it sounds like we are requesting something, right? We are requesting the ability to be able to pay off, say, this television in installments. So you might go with pedir for that reason. On the surface, it may seem like that to you, but the reason that it's preguntar is because this word here, if. So we don't know if we can pay it off in installments or not. We don't know that information, and we're asking to know that information. And that is why it would actually be, we would go with preguntar here. When on the surface, I can understand certainly if you went for pedir, because again, it seems at first glance maybe that we're asking or requesting the ability to be able to pay it off in installments. You can see how sometimes it can get quite delicate. This next one we asked how many installments we had left to pay it off. So is this one, again, preguntar or pedir? This one I think is a bit easier. It's preguntar again, because again, this is something we don't know and we're asking for them to tell us this piece of information. How many installments do we have left in order to pay off whatever it is? Try this next one. I'll ask her if she knows how to do it. So pedir or preguntar. Again, we're going to use preguntar aquí, because here we have if. We're not asking her to do something for us like we would be in a request. We simply want to know this piece of information. If she knows or if she doesn't know. We don't know that, so we are asking to know that information. That one again was a little bit tricky. Look at this one. I'll ask her if she can do it for me. So pedir or preguntar. This again is going to be preguntar. Here we have 4 in a row with preguntar, because once again, I'm asking for this information. I don't know if she can do it for me or not. This is what I want to find out. So I'm using preguntar to find out this piece of information, if she can do it for me or not. I'm not making a direct request to her, because let's type it out here so you can see the difference on one slide. A direct request would be more like I'll ask her to do it for me. Now this is a direct request. Can you see the difference? Here I don't know if she can do it for me or not, and I'm asking to find out. Okay, so this is asking for information. Whereas here, I'll ask her to do it for me. I'm not requesting any information here at all. This is going to be a direct request to her that she does it for me. Try this next one. Can you ask if they can find my keys for me? Would this be pedir or preguntar? This one is going to be preguntar, because again, I don't know if they can find my keys for me or not. Maybe they're busy and they don't have the time or the chance or the inclination to do it for me. So I'm asking if they can find my keys for me. Now, if we contrast that with this one, can you ask them to find my keys for me? Now this is a direct request. This is now pedir, because I'm no longer asking for any information. I'm saying, or I'm requesting you to ask them to find my keys for me. So this is now a direct request. As we go through these and you try to decide if it's preguntar or pedir, one of the easiest ways to do that is really to focus on the fact of, are we at all asking for information? And if you are asking for information, such as in this example, then you're going to go with preguntar. Where in these other ones, it's very clear that you're not asking for any kind of information at all. It really is a direct request. So when it comes to deciding between preguntar and pedir, probably the best advice I can give you is to focus on that key point, is in the question or what you are asking, is there any hint of information that you're asking for, any hint of information? And if there is, you're going to go with preguntar. And if there's no hint of asking for information, such as in this one, then you're going to go with pedir. So focus on that key word of information. Before we go on to a drill of this, I'd like to give you something very useful, which is directly related. We can, in English, ask about someone or about something. And to do this in Spanish, you would use preguntar por. So you're always using preguntar. You're not going to use pedir. And onto the end of that, you're going to tag on por. So for example, he was asking about you. That would be preguntaba, he was asking. And about you would be por ti. So he was asking about you. Preguntaba por ti. Here you can see the formula working. Or this one, I would like to ask about the course. So here we're not asking about a person. We're asking about something intangible, but it doesn't matter. It works in exactly the same way. So we'd have me gustaría preguntar por el curso. I would like to ask about the course. So this is something very useful because we use it a lot in English, where you have to ask about something or someone. It's always going to be preguntar. You don't have to worry about pedir. And the about is with por. So you can ask about what happened at the party last night. You can ask about how your uncle is doing, things like that. Preguntar and por.